Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. I'm Lori LeBay, the founder of Alzheimer's Speaks, and I'm also a daughter whose mother had dementia for 30 years. And I just felt it was really important to have these conversations with people living with dementia. Their insights are so helpful and so powerful, and we need to listen to them. So, our topic today is going to be talking about airports and travel and the Americans Disability Act, and I think you'll learn some interesting things from everybody. But before we do that, I'm going to have everyone go ahead and introduce themselves. And True, if you would start.
I've usually got a cheat sheet for remembering what things for my intro, and it's lost. But I remember my name is Truthful Loving Kindness, and my current diagnosis is mild cognitive impairment because my symptoms, because my progress in dementia, or whatever the words are. At any rate, it goes too slow to fit any of the nice boxes. And I have Lewy body and vascular symptoms. And I blog. And Dementia Mentors, AA, at something with Dementia Mentors.
And DAA. Dementia Action Alliance, you're involved with too. Okay, thank you, True. Bob, how about you?
My name is Bob Savage. I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 4 years ago. I'm very blessed that I'm able to do a lot of speaking, and it hasn't bothered me yet. I found other parts of my activities that it is very clearly Alzheimer's. And my whole purpose is to try to reduce the stigma related to any form of dementia.
Great, thank you, Bob. Craig?
Hi, my name is Craig Hankey. My current diagnosis is Lewy body dementia with Parkinson's symptoms. I'm involved in Dementia Mentors and starting to get involved in Dementia Action Alliance.
Thank you. And Harry?
My name's Harry Urban. I live in Pennsylvania, and I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and now I'm beginning to show more signs of vascular dementia.
Okay, thanks, Harry. And my co-facilitator, Elon, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Elon Caspi. Both my grandmothers had dementia. I've been in the aging field for 25 years. I'm here to learn from your lived experience and to share what I learned along the way. Always looking forward to these cutting-edge Dementia Chats sessions.
Great, thank you. Well, like I said earlier, today we're going to talk about travel and airports in particular, and the American Disabilities Act in terms of what people with dementia would like to see, and maybe hear some of their stories of travel as examples. And so, Harry, I'm going to throw this to you first. How's that?
Yeah, well, I used to do a lot of flying. I used to do a lot of traveling for the company I worked for. And times have changed so much over the years. And now I don't fly that often, maybe, I don't know, 1-2 times a year now. But I was always concerned going through TSA, through the security lines. And it's very traumatic for me if I have to stand in line for an hour to get through. So the last time I flew, I said, I just can't do this. You know, that I'm not going to be able to fly. So then the airport said that let them know ahead of time that I'm living with dementia at check-in. And when I unload my luggage at the curb, they're there. Now, I have to ride in a wheelchair. I walk with a cane, but they make me sit in a wheelchair. And what they do then is they take me to the front of the line, of the TSA line. And it's a super fast check-in. I mean, I still go through the same security, but I don't have to wait in line. And that's so nice. And it's the same thing. Now, I've been riding more trains lately. And if you let the red cap know you're living with dementia, they are so nice. They help you on the train. They let you know when your station is that you get off and things like that. But you have to let these people know that you have these handicaps.
So I think that's a really good point about self-identifying. And I know Michael Ellenbogen's not here with us, but I know we talked about this, oh gosh, years ago. And I remember him saying, and rightfully so, he says, I can walk, I don't need a wheelchair. And he was very upset over that process because he felt like he was being additionally handicapped or categorized by going in the wheelchair. But yet, like you're saying, it speeds up the process and you get the attention that you need.
The thing of it is, if they walk you to the front of the line, okay, everybody in line thinks you're getting preferential treatment. Okay, but if they wheel you up in a wheelchair, nobody ever says anything. That's how it was explained to me, because I said the same thing. I can walk. And they said, no, the regulation says you have to be in a wheelchair to go.
Interesting.
And then they explained it to me that causes less of a problem for them.
Okay, so less pushback. True?
Also, going through their wheelchair process, you've got somebody with you, if I recall correctly. I only do this like once a year or every other year. But the process of going through without my partner or another person with me that knows everything that is going on is very, very stressful. And even if they separate me from Guy, I've got the person who is kind of in charge of me in the disability realm there to coach me through, to be my partner in that process.
What they also do is when they take you through, TSA takes you to the proper gate. So you don't have to look for what gate because they have your ticket, they know where you're going, and they take you right to the gate, which is so nice because then you don't have to look around for what gate you're leaving and things like that.
Yeah, I think with each airport, they call these things different pieces. In Minneapolis, when I've talked with them, it sounds like TSA isn't really the one bringing you through, it's somebody else, but they coordinate as a team, and TSA is really more the screening process in and of itself, but it might be different at your airport too. The other thing that I think is important, and I'll get you in just a second, Bob, is when you're talking about going through, how intimidating going through TSA was and the long lines are difficult. We were talking with somebody from Australia, and she said she was so intimidated with our TSA process compared to other countries. She said it was just totally different. And she said she couldn't wait to get back home. And so I don't know what it's like in other countries, but she does not have dementia, and that's what she was saying. The other thing is, if you are going through, sometimes a partner who is traveling with you will go through first, and then you're left on your own. So if there's any problem with you, they can't come back and help. So they've said it's best for the person with dementia to go through first, because then their partner can still be back in that area assisting things and being part of the conversation and comfort, whatever needs to be done. But once you get to that other side, then they're like, you're not involved in this, leave us alone, is what I have heard too. Has anybody had any issues with that? Okay, let's go to Bob then.
2 months ago, I was traveling in Colorado to go to a conference. And about 2 months prior to that, I had an episode in my brain that I made up this weird story that something was possible that I finally found out was completely impossible. And it sort of shook me up because I thought I could be in any moment, anywhere, and make up a story, and God knows what I'd do. So I talked to Stephanie here, and this is what she did for me. I'll show you the. It's my picture, and it has. I have dementia, and I may need help. And in the packet, I had my itinerary, and I had my phone. And so if I got lost, well, a couple of people here said, "Are you out of your mind wearing that in the airport? People are going to take advantage of you, right?" So I decided to do it because if everybody in that airport had this sign, say there was 200-300 of us, because there was thousands of people traveling, and everybody had that sign, it'd be much easier for us to be recognized. The other thing is I find that the rugs in airports and a lot of the new airport and new hotels have all these bright colors and the crisscrossing lines, and it felt like I was walking on a potato field, and I was spending so much time figuring out how the hell to walk without falling that I was losing where I was going. And there was one other instant where it was a linoleum and it was just lights flashing on it, and it felt like I was walking on water. Right? The other thing that really I wanted to get early boarding, and we didn't think to pay for it. I didn't know you had to pay special to go in early boarding. And there was a line of 100 people waiting to do early boarding. So a lot of people are faking their need for early boarding. So what I did, and there was a person with me all the time. So we went to where the early boarding was, and she mumbled, and I showed her the sign, and she let me through. So I got early boarding. So our biggest problem, and it relates to what I was saying before, we got to fake something else that we're something else to get what we want. In other words, if I'm in a wheelchair, I have a disability, but people still don't recognize that dementia is a disability. And how do we show that to people so that we don't have to feel inferior every time that they don't understand? You got to fake it. That's my shot.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I applaud you for wearing the sign, because one of the things that the airports are saying is that we can't tell, and they want to recognize and honor people with dementia. So what I have heard is if you go up to the gate and just say, I have dementia, and you don't even have to say it's dementia. You can just say, I have a disability. And you don't have to tell them what the disability is. And then typically you can board early, no questions asked, no fee. It's a lot of times they'll do vets and, small children or people with disabilities are allowed to board sooner. And then they'll go into their people who travel, more and so forth there. I also understand the concern with the signage, because we've discussed this quite a bit about the vulnerability of the hat. But I also agree with you, if more people would do it, more people would realize how many people with disability, with dementia are traveling in the airport. I mean, I think it's probably a phenomenal amount that they don't have a clue.
Going back to when we did put the ticket, we said we had dementia, and people on the tickets they don't know anything about dementia usually. And when I was trying to get on early boarding, they were saying, no, you can't do it, until I forced myself and showed my picture.
Uh-huh.
So it takes a lot of education. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, true.
Another issue that I have run up against is that when we got the tickets and said, no, we need to be together, because if there's an emergency, I can't follow directions. I can't understand the words. And so we have to be seated together. And they said, oh, okay, then you need to fill out these papers. And then the other, one of the other airlines that we were connecting to found out, and they said, oh, we need these set of papers, and it's 3 days before we leave. How do you, they have to be signed by the doctor, and it's like 5 pages saying that you are safe to travel. So that it's kind of a mixed bag when, or rather, I think when you say that you've got dementia is an important point. Saying it too early can bring a lot of extra challenges, but not saying it can be a big problem. So when at that point, I think changes with specific airlines, changes with where you're going, etc. But that is another point to consider.
That's a really good point. In a conversation I was having with colleagues the other day, they were talking about, well, and I didn't realize this, but airlines have restrictions. And I don't know, they're probably not all the same, but they said the most common was that a person has to be able to toilet and eat and probably follow directions in case of an emergency, though that one was not mentioned. And at what point, are the doctor's papers needed? I mean, that stuff needs to be disclosed on their website so that people know. And if you're dealing with travel agents, that everybody is on the same page. There's got to be an easier way to process that. I would also like to just back up to Bob's comment on the flooring, because I think that is a huge piece. With carpet, with patterns, people don't understand the implications that can have, not just for people with dementia, but any type of depth perception. Like in nursing homes, they'll put a dark color by the elevator or around the desk because some people feel they'll fall in. And so it keeps them away from, being able to take the elevator and scoot out of the building or get into stuff at the desk. But really being aware of those physical changes, and then the lighting with the glare. And I've seen that myself where it's so shiny, from the glare on linoleum is very, very important. True?
Another thing is white toilets on white floors. I get mad at people for missing the toilet when they can't see it.
Good point. Elon?
So many years ago in Israel, and by the way, if you think that the TCA is challenging in the United States, try to go to Israel. In any case, many years ago, there was a national, it's probably a bad translation, but national nursing assistance insurance for people who had physical disabilities, older adults particularly, who had physical disabilities at home. They were entitled for a benefit of 10 or 12 hours a week of assistance from a home health agency. Over the years, the law overall was very successful in supporting people with physical disabilities, older adults. But people with dementia, the nurse came to evaluate them in their homes all over Israel, and they looked fine. They were at their best on that day sometimes, and they performed wonderfully on the ADL, activities of daily living, and how to function in their kitchen, and how to self-care, etc. And so the nurse left with a score that prohibited these individuals from receiving the national nursing assistant benefit. So there was, people realized the problem in the law and the national law, and they advocated to change that. And about a decade ago, roughly, it was changed. And now you can be fine with activities of daily living, so to speak. But if you have a cognitive impairment, they now, it's part of the protocol of assessment now. And now it's being recognized. And now these individuals all over the country can receive this support that is very essential for individuals. That was just kind of one example from another world, but I think that it's a journey to get there and to advocate until you reach that point when enough people, are loud about it. Bob, it sounds like you want to comment.
At home, or is that when you're out in the world in general?
That was at home. It was just kind of a general example. Now, with regards to airports, a lot of people talk about memory, and it's important to talk about short-term memory, etc. But not a lot of people talk about executive functioning, the ability to plan, initiate, sequence, and discontinue a task. And this is critical for many people. We hear for many people with dementia, and in airports, the issues of planning where you want to go, the wayfinding that people without cognitive impairment take for granted. There's, as Laurie mentioned, issues with lighting. There's issues with noise. One of the things I want to see in the initiative in the St. Paul, Minneapolis airport, I hope they are considering to collaborate with Steve Orfield, who is a national expert who was on this show a couple of years ago, who was doing actually empirical, research on lighting, on noise, on rugs, and not only for people with dementia, but older adults in general too. So, and I'm just going to finish by saying that maybe I'll stop here. Maybe you have something to say, and I'll share something about the American with Disability Act.
True, go ahead.
Not on the ADA, but on the issue of airports in general. Once I go to the bathroom, the rest of my airport visit is shot because I can't work the toilet to flush it. Then I'm frustrated. I get to the sink. I know I'm supposed to do something, but my initiator is broke by that time because of the problems with the toilet. And I cannot get the faucet to go on, and I can't figure out where the soap is. And then I go to dry my hands, and it's blaring that sound that is attacking me. And by the time I get out, I have no idea how to get to wherever I was. I'm shot the rest of the day after I go to the bathroom. A restroom at the airport is trash for the day. It is horrid.
That's a wonderful example. I wanted to bring that up about, they all have the automatic, put your hands underneath, and find the sensors. And half the time the sensor doesn't recognize you. So even if you're doing it right, it still doesn't work. Or you're looking for the water and all of a sudden the soap shoots out at you from another direction. And then the towels, you're putting your hands under there too, trying to either get the blower to work or do you put them inside? They're not consistent. And then you also have, with the restrooms in many of the airports, 2 exits. And so often somebody gets lost by going in one and coming out the other side, and their partner is still waiting, and then everyone's panicked. Go ahead, True, and then Bob.
Not only that, but the doors for all of the restroom stalls are tall. And you can't get out of how do I get out of here? And then you get to corridors. Where did I already try? Have I been this way? And Guy has had to send people in for me.
That's a good point. And even with, because sometimes the doors aren't quite level and they don't shut all the way. I know when I travel, a lot of times I don't even lock it. I just roll my suitcase up against it and do that. But again, that's something that you'd have to remember to do, because that can be tricky, trying to figure out once you get it locked, remembering. I've heard people not be able to open the door either, not because they're in such a confused state. And when you talked about the toilet flushing, some have handles, some automatically flush, some have a little button to push. And even myself, I don't even know all the time what is what. So I think they have the automatic stuff thinking it's going to save them water, but not necessarily, with things. Bob, you had a comment?
Do those things have to be so loud? Is it really necessary that you got to scare the hell out of you? when you're trying to dry your hand with one of those things. I don't think, to me, with the engineering abilities we have, there must be some way. I avoid those things, even though I know it's coming. The noise just shatters me.
Yeah, I just wipe my hands on my clothes. I do not use them.
No.
It's hard.
It's a combination of the noise and then the jolt from the blow, because even if it's not you using it, you can be at the sink and then all of a sudden, boom, someone else is doing it. That can be
by the time you get to it, by the time it's stopped,
yeah.
you got to do it over again.
Yeah. Do you find, does anybody find it difficult with the new ones where you put your hands into them versus before you used to just put them underneath? Has anybody found that confusing?
Like I say, personally, I won't use them.
Okay.
I use my clothes.
Okay. Aylan?
So, Lori, you led a Dementia Chat session about noise. I don't know if it was in the old platform with the Adobe, or is it, or it was in the new Zoom system. But it was phenomenal, and we had Steve Orfield talking about it too with the experts with dementia. It strikes me as a theme that the public, the people don't realize how the role of noise in people with dementia. One of the people on this show with dementia said, either I'm going to leave when I hear that noise, either I'm going to leave the area or I'm going to become very upset. And I don't think people really recognize that, understand how much it's disruptive for people with dementia. Anyway, so I think that there's great resources out there, like Steve Orfield with Orfield Labs in Minneapolis here, that can help tremendously. He has the most sophisticated devices from Europe that can analyze noise levels and lighting levels, and also he develops rugs for older adults and possibly for people with dementia. The noise is a big deal, and I think that this should be an integral part of every planning of every public space, aging friendly and dementia friendly.
It would be interesting in the restrooms in particular, because you can get that echo sound in there sometimes, even if the ceilings aren't high. But if they had some panels in the ceiling to absorb that sound.
That's exactly what Steve Orfield is doing.
Yep.
He's going into a space and he makes it acoustically user friendly.
Yep. And and also in terms of, the glare in the bathroom sometimes can be really loud too. It just depends on the colors. And I know Steve has, he measures the light that bounces off different color paint samples and stuff too. I mean, it's pretty amazing, all of the things that he does. I think, Bob, did you have a comment?
I go to a lot of meetings here where a number of people are speaking, and my brain can follow the person leading the meeting that sets the topic. And then I can follow that, and my whole brain is following that. And then we have sidebars and other people talking during that time, which happens quite frequently in business. Within 15 minutes, my brain jams up. And I finally told him one day, this is not a very dementia-friendly meeting, because everybody, they try very hard. But you take that noise, right? And then you go into an airport, right? And that there causes confusion immediately. But all these little things we're talking about the noise here, the noise in an airport is overwhelming in itself, right? So they'll say, well, don't travel. But I'm just showing that how the noise on a smaller level bothers you, but the noises in large places like airports kills you. Mm-hmm. And you're exhausted you're trying so hard to understand what's going on, and then you're totally exhausted. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Craig and then Aylan. So Craig?
I have two items I want to discuss. The first one is a little off topic, but I don't know if any of you tried watching the Grammy Awards Sunday night. The lighting from behind the person that was performing was so blatant and so strobe light, like I couldn't watch the show. I had to turn it off. And my second thing is, sure most of you know Lori Scherer. She has a business card that she prints out. She gave us the idea last week, where it says on the card, "Please be patient. I have dementia and may repeat questions, forget what you told me, or take longer in making decisions." So I think that's, like Bob's side, I think that's a good idea to have with you also.
Yep, our Roseville group for our travel one is on the back side of that card. We have added in who the care partner is and their phone number. So if you get lost, there's a contact person, and same with the card for the care partner, in case, let's say, they would get, ill or slip and get hurt. It says, "I'm caring for so-and-so with dementia." And this is kind of a backup care partner, but, please find them so that they're alerted that that person is responsible for somebody. Because we put together a huge travel packet with everything from how to pack and what to pack, and things that might make your process a little bit easier if it's just traveling in town, going to the doctor's or the gas station or the store, or if you're going up to the lake that's a couple hours away, or if you're flying to the other side of the country or out of the country. And so there's a bunch of information there, and I'll post a link to that information when I post this video as well. Elon, you had a comment?
Yeah, so first of all, if you can share those resources. Also, Craig, if you have any way to share that, or ask Lori to share it with us, I would really appreciate that. Or even in an email to write what you just told us, or in any way to share that with us, that would be very helpful. The two quick things I wanted to mention, one, and that's what I was trying to remember earlier and I didn't, which is, with regards to noise, we have a long way to go in our society. And I remember Harry Urban shared, Harry, you shared a story a couple of years ago in one of the Alzheimer's Association walks, where the noise from the music and the microphone were so loud that it was very, very upsetting for you. So if the Alzheimer's Association that should have events that are dementia friendly, and I believe you even asked them to change that, and you were not satisfied with the response you received. So if the Alzheimer's Association still has a long way to go, then there's a long way to go with public, other organizations and public spaces. This is a journey. And I have another thing I want to mention, but it sounds like Bob has a comment.
One of the things that the Alzheimer's Association talks about all the time is how many people are having dementia now, right? I mean, we're no longer a small number of people, so that when you go to an airport, they say, well, you're an exception. We're no longer an exception. When there are many of us that are out there now, and we have to let them know that we're not just a little group anymore. That's all I had to say.
Right. And just to strengthen what you're saying, we know that about half of the people who live with dementia in this country are never diagnosed from the first symptom until they pass away. So this is what we know. We know the numbers in the Alzheimer's Association facts and figures that is very helpful. But we also know that at least about half are never diagnosed. So how many people are walking amongst us and we don't even know they have dementia? Right. But my other comment that I had is about the stigma. So I absolutely loved what you did, Bob, with the sign that Stephanie helped you in your community, and you find it very useful. I think it's terrific. I think it takes courage to use it. One thing that people may want to take into consideration, I'm sure you all do, is I remember the story that Michael Ellenbogen shared with us when he was, not too long after he was diagnosed he ran into a friend in a gas station. He was driving his car, he ran into a friend in a gas station, and he shared the diagnosis news with his friend. And the reaction that he got was very, very concerning for Michael. It was very stigmatizing. It was very hurting. What the hell are you doing on the road, or something along those lines, when we know that people with early stages of dementia are, many of them are capable of driving safely, maybe with some adaptations for some individuals. So the stigma piece, going back to the sign in an airport, how would you suggest, Bob or others, when someone would approach you and relate to you in a stigmatized way? I'm not questioning the use. I think it's phenomenal, but how would you approach it, Bob, or others?
I'm in the airport. There's this huge, huge picture of a product that says, "We're finally here. Now we understand you. Now we should have signs like that everywhere. We are dementia people. We need your help. You're finally seeing us."
Right, but I'm relating to the fear in our society, and people.
I know, but that's the same thing. You see, everything relates to fear and stigma are synonymous words.
Right. So how would you approach it if somebody would approach you and said, would tell you something that you would feel would be stigmatizing?
Well, first of all, I would probably say thank you very much and leave, because I don't give a damn, right? Because I'm not going to change that person. Or if I was in trouble again, I do my usual thing. "I'm so sorry. I have Alzheimer's."
Okay. I'm going to go to True and then to Harry.
I usually give them my card. You might find out more about this because I think you're incorrect. Here's my blog.
Oh, that's good. Harry?
Two things. I did an experiment at a restaurant one time, and I had a card, and it was nice that I have Alzheimer's, and please be patient with me, the whole 9 yards. And I tell you what, you will not get a second cup of coffee, because that waiter will not come up to you after that.
Well,
Now,
that's pretty sad.
but it's true. I mean, and now I told that story at a couple talks I did, and you would be surprised how many people said the same thing about the cards. Because I had them printed up. I was giving them out like candy. And then they explained to me how many problems that creates. Okay, first of all, people make you feel different. There goes that stigma again. Don't talk to that guy because he has dementia. So there's all kind of problems with that.
There's a couple other things regarding the airport that I would like to still cover. One is just about escalators and elevators in terms of, and the moving walkways. Are those helpful? Are they confusing? Bob, do you have any opinions on that?
I used to like them when I used to travel a lot. I used to like them, but now I don't like them anymore because people keep going by you and people are running. And then when it comes to the end, you got to jump to get off. And I'm worried about 20, 30 feet away because I get my foot up in the air ready, right? And so there's these huge escalators at airports now. They're the size of 130 feet. You look down on that thing, right? And first, getting on the damn thing, before you're on, you're gone. You're going down. And so it just never used to bother me. But now, and then when you're going down a long escalator, you see so much. You see the hallways, you see the people, and you start to, Jesus, I got to be part of that. So they're too long. But the main thing, is the fear of falling, and then there's walkers, those walkways, getting on and getting off, bother me.
Yeah, and I think that, it's not just people with dementia, but just as we age, visually we see things different. We have depth perception, we have balance issues, all of those. And I think that they cause a lot of people problems.
Oh, yeah.
They help a lot of others. Harry, how about you?
I think they ought to pass a law, no passing on a walkway. Okay? Because now, I have neuropathy in my feet, so I have a balance problem. That's why I have to walk with a cane. So I'm standing there on a walkway, and somebody always has to pass me. Like the walkways, I thought were designed so you stood on them and you get off at the other end. But people was always in so much of a hurry. Instead of running down or walking fast down, they get on a walkway and they push people out of the way. That's the only thing I don't like about them.
Okay, well, that's a good point. There's usually one path, where you can stand and just take the ride, and the other one you can walk, or like you said, some people run. But then when you got bags and stuff, you're getting bopped, and that can really be an issue. Elon?
Did you also mention elevators, Lori, in airports?
Yeah, elevators. Most of the time, what I hear is that people have a really difficult time finding them.
Yeah. So what I can share about elevators is that, and again, interestingly, it goes back partially to executive functioning, the ability to plan, initiate, sequence, and discontinue a complex task, right? So we see it oftentimes in long-term care home, nursing home, assisted living. There's a lot going on around the elevators. I don't know if you noticed it. There's a lot of people with dementia, granted in the, perhaps more in the mid-stage or later, that struggle to operate the elevator, struggle to plan what they want to do with the elevator, where they want to go, and what floor, where to leave. Some people will stand in the elevator and look at the wall instead of, there's a lot of invasion of personal space inside elevators, and people get frustrated. There's falls. In fact, there's incidents between residents taking place as they approach the elevator, inside the elevator, and when they are about to leave the elevator. So elevators are a big deal for a lot of people with dementia, at least in long-term care homes. Maybe you have insights in the community as well.
Well, I think too with elevators, the button, sometimes there's a number and then there's the button you push and they're separate, and people don't know which to push, or they don't know what level to go to, or there's the close the door or open the door button, and then there's the alarm button. And lighting can be an issue or not. Some of them are clear, and so you see as you're dropping or going up.
Right, and the door may start closing, and there's a person with dementia with a walker, and falls, and we hear about falls. I heard about recently one near the Twin Cities. A door closed on a woman, and she fell. Older woman with a walker, so it's an issue.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have the old kind of elevator man, Bob, and then Harry.
In assisted living, in order to avoid the trauma around taking an elevator, when they're taking an elevator, you got to go walk in a line. So they bring you together, and you've got to march together to go to the elevator. People find it so humiliating that they gotta. Now, number one, the elevator is dangerous, right? For some people, but yet to protect them, they put them in a humiliating situation where we cannot do that anymore. We don't know how to do it, so we have to be treated like less than in order to be able to get the elevator without hurting yourself, right? So it's a very challenging issue, I tell you, because if you leave us alone, God knows where we'll end up.
And just to make it worse, what about if the elevator gets stuck and there's...
Oh, shit.
Hey, Harry, you had a comment too?
Yeah, I'm going back to riding a train because I've been riding more trains, and I let the red cap know that I have to use the elevator, because trains, you always have to climb up all those steps, and I have a lot of difficulty doing that. So what they do is they seat me in a car that when the car pulls into the station, it ends up right by the elevator. So I don't have to hunt down the elevator. I get off the car and the sign's right there. It is so nice, but again, you have to let them know.
And that's wonderful. And at the airport, so many of them have these trams or trains too. but there's nobody to talk to. You just kind of barge on, and if you can get a seat or standing and holding a rope or holding onto a pole, all of those things can be very complicated too. And then it's kind of the cattle prod herd in and out of those things. It can be very, I think, overwhelming if someone doesn't have a partner with them on that, because even if I remember for myself, I've never been one to take a bus. And so I didn't know what to look for the first time, and then it's flashing and it's rolling by you and stuff. But I like that they do have on most of them, when you land, it'll say, station ABC or whatever it is on the outside of the trains, and it matches up with the inside, and most of them will announce it as well. But again, that can get really loud and noisy in those trams as well, and be something kind of scary.
So, Lori, we're almost at the top of the hour, and I wonder if, Truthful has something to share. I was wondering if Craig also has any experience in elevators that he has that want to share. But
I always do the wheelchair thing, which makes all of those things usually non-issues, because I've got someone with me that knows what they're doing through the whole process. Now, the buses or the train, whatever it is that gets you to the airports, that's another issue. I cannot do that by myself.
Okay, thank you. Craig, did you have any comments on the elevators or escalators and moving walkways?
I don't have any problem with elevators unless there's more than like 3 floors. The numbers all seem to mix together, the floors for me. But if there's like only 2 or 3 floors, I'm good with that.
you mean the buttons?
Yeah.
What about, do you ever do the moving walkways or the escalators?
I do the escalators at the Brewers Stadium where the Milwaukee Brewers play, and those escalators are stories tall, and they intimidate me by trying to go on them, so I try to use the elevator if I can.
Okay. Elon?
I just want to say that you did it again, Lori. It was incredible. I found it incredibly informative session. I wish every person with dementia would watch it, or in this case, every airport, or every architect or people who design public spaces, city. I think it's a phenomenal. There was so much in this session that I'm just thrilled about it. Thank you.
We could have broken things down, because we really didn't get to even the stores and the restaurants, or utilizing the signage. Could have been a whole nother hour. Finding bathrooms and what they look like. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Maybe we can schedule it ahead of time for the next session, those other issues.
Good idea. Bob, do you have any other additional comments?
The more you try to reduce stigma, the more you identify it as those people keep complaining. It's a delicate balance on how do you do it without saying he's a pain in the hoo-ha because he's taking advantage that he has dementia, right? And how do you do that? And that's balance, and it's hard to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just the education, because if we can keep people with dementia calm and not stressed out, they're going to have less symptoms that could interfere with a lot of different things, not just themselves, but those around them as well. It's like any of us, when we're in a bad mood, or we're frightened, or we're scared, if you have dementia or not, other people feel that and sense that. And it's important for us to make sure people are comfortable. And then, Harry, how about you? Any last comments?
The only comment I have is, if you want to learn what it's like living with dementia, talk to somebody living it. That's where you're going to get the true information.
Ain't that the truth? Yep, that's exactly why we have these things. Elon, any last summary?
So I'm just going to thank you all for participating today. It was phenomenal, really.
Okay, thank you. Well, and thank everybody so much for this. Please share this, and I think this will open up a big conversation and be very insightful to so many. So thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.